Hello everyone, it is the very end of April and we are back today with some exciting Halloween Horror Nights news. We have an official Halloween Horror Nights teaser, which I did not think we were going to get this early in the season, and we have a new rumors map from Horror Night Nightmares, so let's get into it. So the end of this week turned out to be very exciting with a rumors map from Horror Night Nightmares and then this mysterious 10-minute teaser video from Halloween Horror Nights themselves. But before we dive into what this all means, hi, I am Liz. If this is the first video you're seeing of mine, I am a diehard Halloween Horror Nights fan. I've been attending the event since 2001. It's my favorite event of the year, and here on my channel, I cover all of the Halloween Horror Nights news, rumors, and then when the event rolls around, I vlog from the event. So if you aren't already, make sure to subscribe. But now let's get into these rumors. So I think before we jump into the map, let's talk about this teaser video that went out yesterday because that is official news. The rumor map, obviously it's speculation, but this came from Halloween Horror Nights themselves. And it has so much in it that we need to talk about, figure out. It's gonna be a mystery for a little bit, I think. So first of all, I themed my attire based on the video because the video starts off with a podcaster recording wearing this specific shirt and hinting that the legend is real, that the hints are staring us right in the face, and then things start going awry. She seems to get possessed or have a little Blair Witch moment in the corner. In between these scenes of seeing her meet probably not the best fate, we have little hints, or what we think are hints, tossed in. There's letters thrown on the screen, certain moments of fog with particles in the air. There's a creepy face that goes across, which I have theories on. There's a maniacal laughter. There's a little bit of carnival music. There's some footage of people screaming in a Halloween Horror Nights house. What does it all mean? What does it all mean? Based on the speculation map that we received, I was already trying to figure out what some of these images meant. There's been a rumor floating around based on a particular house that was on that map. People had already been mentioning tossing out the name Oddfellow, which we'll get more into that in a bit. When I saw this teaser video, for me, that image, it wasn't Jack, it was Oddfellow. So here's a picture from Horror Night Nightmares from their website. This image of Dr. Oddfellow from Halloween Horror Nights 10, which sadly was the year right before I started going, so I missed it by a year. Tell me that doesn't look like the guy that's in the video. To me, that's what I'm seeing. The maniacal laugh, it just seems like that paired with the carnival music. I'm wondering if, and this is a big if Dr. Oddfellow will be an icon. If so, I will be ecstatic because I truly thought the era of icons was over. I thought we wouldn't see any new icons, that they just weren't going to be used for marketing anymore, that we had moved on from that and we were just sticking with marketing IPs from now on. And that could still be the case. This might be something they're just doing for the fans and not necessarily using for marketing the event, like we might not see Dr. Oddfellow billboards. But if it's happening, and even if it is just for the fans, I am thrilled. I don't want to get my heart too set on it because I will be a little heartbroken if it turns out to be just reading too much into this. I think seeing some Dr. Oddfellow backstory and getting into that would be fantastic. Now, if you aren't familiar with Dr. Oddfellow, I will do a full video on his history if in fact this ends up being true. You guys know I love to do the history videos, so I will do an in-depth breakdown of Dr. Oddfellow in the future. For now, all you need to know is that Dr. Oddfellow is a pivotal part of Jack's origin story and how he became the Jack that we all know now. They have a sordid past together. Dr. Oddfellow has had a carnival in the past and a house that was called Fear House instead of Fun House. Dr. Oddfellow had Jack killed, then Jack killed Dr. Oddfellow. So I'm assuming all of this is taking place before Jack. That's gonna be my assumption. If we're getting more of Oddfellow's story, it would make sense for it to be pre-Jack because we kind of already know what happens once Jack's in the picture. So that's what I'm thinking for the teaser, but we'll talk about that more when we get into the speculation map. Let me know what you guys are thinking. I know Dr. Oddfellow is an older character in Horror Nights lore. I think the story of what happened with Jack really came about in 2007 when Jack was the icon then. I know it might be an older story that a lot of you aren't familiar with, so I promise history lesson coming soon, but let me know what you think of that teaser video, and if you disagree with me, if you think it's teasing something else, let me know. Moving on, let's talk about the speculation map version 2 from Horror Night Nightmares. Let's go around the map. This is very different from the last time. If you saw my last video, the map has drastically changed since the last one, but that's what happens when it's early in speculation season. You never know, things are gonna change. That's why I always tell people, don't get your heart set on anything and don't get too upset about anything because it's all going to change. So here's what we have for version 2. First up, we have Demon Slayer, which is an anime. I know absolutely nothing about this anime. I'm not an anime person. I've only watched a couple anime in my entire life. It's just not my genre that I'm into. I know that it is very popular. Universal even sells some of their shirts in the Men in Black store. So I know a lot of people love this, but I'm just gonna go out and say that I don't think this is a real one. I think this is a placeholder. I think that it's something that gets tossed around every single year just as a potential big IP that they could bring in. I don't think it's a fit for Halloween Horror Nights. I don't see them going in that direction. I'm not even gonna spend that much time on it because I just don't think it's going to be there. If you love Demon Slayer, I just wouldn't get your heart set on it. I don't see this one coming to Halloween Horror Nights. With that, we're gonna move to the next one, which is The Exorcist Believer. So this is the new Exorcist film that is a Blumhouse production. It is coming out this October. The October release date makes me a little skeptical because we know what happens when you release a house before you release a movie. See Dracula Untold and that disaster. It doesn't always work out because you're walking through scenes of a movie that you haven't seen yet. While yes, you're walking through originals blind, when it's an IP, a lot of times you need to understand the story in order to walk through it and understand the scene. We're familiar with the Exorcist property. I don't really know the story of this new release. I don't know if it'll translate well without us having seen the movie yet, and it's coming out mid-October. So I understand they like the synergy of it. It's Blumhouse and we've had a partnership with them for the last few years. It makes sense to combine them. I just would have expected to see Megan or the new Insidious movie or something else in this spot. Time will tell. The next one is Chucky. We all know that one's happening. We know it's real. I'm gonna go ahead and move on. However, I will say I'm not touching on locations for these because it's way too soon to know locations, and even Horror Night Nightmares did comment like, hey, don't be too critical on locations. We don't know yet. So the next one, we have an image of a village with a church steeple and a pentagram. As many of you may know, I have now joined the RIP Tour podcast, and we just recorded our episode for that last night. In our discussion, we started off talking about the cult and whether or not the pentagram was a cult symbol, a cult house, and then it kind of came around to talking about Salem. So that's where I'm feeling this house is going. It seems a little soon because we just had a witch house last year, but it was a completely different time period, and I know a lot of people were hoping we were going to get traditional Salem style witches, Salem witch trial era witches, and that's not what we got. Loved the concept of the house from last year, even if I didn't love the house as a whole, but I'm even more excited about the potential of seeing traditional witches. Such a Halloween vibe, and we all loved Wicked Growth, which was a traditional Halloween vibe. I could really be excited for Witches in Salem. If that's what this is, obviously we just have an image to go off of, so we're really guessing here. That's where I'm hoping the path is taking us. So continuing our path of image interpretation, we have a castle with a dragon. To me, this is screaming medieval house. I was racking my brain trying to think of the last time we had a medieval house, and I don't think that I have ever gone through a house set in medieval times. Granted, I started going at Halloween Horror Nights 11, so there were still 10 events before that, so I very well could have missed a medieval house, but in my memory I cannot think of a specific medieval house. I can think of ones that were set in castles, like Dracula houses and that kind of stuff, but a full-on medieval theme, I can't think of one. So leave me a comment down below if I'm wrong. But I feel like that has potential to be very exciting as a new original concept that we haven't seen. And then if it's going to have dragons in it, I don't really know how the dragons play in, if that's just a hint to the time period, medieval fantasy house, or if there's gonna be actual dragons in there. Can you imagine if there's knights battling dragons while we're going through the house, fire going off? Could be really cool. I have high hopes for that original, whatever it ends up being. So the next spot we have Top Secret, and there's no asterisk on it, so you know that means IP, especially since, you know, the originals are never top secret. This has to be an IP. It would have to be a very big IP in order to need to be top secret. I have my own hopes. I think there's two main properties that everyone's saying that everyone wants. And I think we'll all interpret this differently based on what we're hoping and wanting in our souls. I know there's a huge camp out there that want Scream. Scream has yet to have an official full house at Halloween Horror Nights. We've seen appearances in All Night Die-In. I was lucky to go through one of those. We almost had it at the event and then we didn't. It's one of those massive horror properties that hasn't really gotten its due yet. Still just waiting to have its appearance and have its moment at Halloween Horror Nights. But then there's the IP that everyone wanted last year. It didn't happen. We were all shocked. What if it's Stranger Things season 4? That's the one I'm hoping for. I know a lot of you out there feel the same way. Season 4 was just begging for a house. These sets, the scenery, the characters, the music is just begging for a Halloween Horror Nights house. And I will be personally so sad if it's not there again this year. It just is begging for it. And there's been some talk based on that teaser video that some of the fog and the particles in the air were a hint to Stranger Things, and that maybe her possession, the podcaster, her going through possession was actually Vecna. I tend to believe that that teaser was specifically for Oddfellow and leading up to the story of the event and not necessarily teasing an IP. If those are hints for Stranger Things as well, I will gladly take it. I really want it to be Stranger Things. I really want to see Vecna. I really want to hear running up that hill, going through the house. I just think it has the potential to be super powerful. If it is Stranger Things, I don't think it's going to be where they have it in this map. I cannot imagine that they would put Stranger Things in the tent by Fast and the Furious, but again, these locations aren't official. So for me, I'm hoping for Stranger Things, but leave me a comment down below and let me know what you hope the top secret IP will be. Because we don't all have to agree. We can all have our own wants and opinions on this one. So the next original has a picture of a tent with like a cloud of smoke behind it. Prior to this, like I said, there'd already been rumors of a carnival clown house happening. With this combined with that teaser, I think this is going to be a return of Dr. Oddfellow's Fear House. Instead of Fun House, it's Fear House. I don't know if this will be clown based, if it's going to be like his carnival of carnies, or if it's diving into his history, but I think this is going to be the Dr. Oddfellow house, and potentially that would make it an icon house if he is the icon. So very exciting. I have high hopes. The last fun house I got to go through was 2007 and it was in that spot, so just saying, there's potential here. Moving on to the next original on the map, which was formerly Devil Dogs, now is just a devil emoji with the asterisk. So we've moved on from Devil Dogs, unfortunately. I do love Slaughter Cinema. I was kind of hoping for a sequel house of Slaughter Cinema and a comedy house, which doesn't really seem like we have a comedy house on here, but this is a devil emoji. Word on Twitter, the rumors floated around, the hints that were getting tossed around by my pal Legacy hinted at the movie Crossroads and not the Britney Spears version. The movie Crossroads, which kind of follows the plot of Devil Goes Down to Georgia, very music based, the devil's taking souls. Could this be a music house, but not a specific artist, but just kind of focused on this music, this soul music, this fiddle, or however it's gonna work, and the devil taking souls in the south? I don't know if that's gonna be like a swamp theme. Obviously, we've had kind of swamp houses in the past with voodoo themes, but this would be very different. I'm intrigued to know what the story is actually going to be, if it does focus on that kind of story. I can't think of them ever telling that version before, and I think that has really good potential for a brand new story that we haven't seen at Halloween Horror Nights. And then we come to our final two IPs of the event. We have The Last of Us and Universal Monsters Paris. For The Last of Us, the key part from this map is that it shows that it's going to be the video game version instead of the TV version, which is kind of a shock based on how popular the television show or the HBO series has become. I really did think we were getting the HBO version just because that that show has blown up. I know the video game is also very popular, but I for sure thought this was going to be a partnership with HBO to take us into the TV show. But if it is based on the video game, I think they get a little more freedom. I think there's more content to choose from. And I do wonder how much the fact that we almost had Last of Us last year and then we didn't played into this decision to do the video game version. Either way, this is a good fit for Halloween Horror Nights. I think a lot of people have wanted this for a while. Clickers, the bloaters, there's so many different characters, and the masks look amazing for it. We've already seen some teasers of masks, so I do believe this one is happening. I think it has the potential to be very scary, but the IP that I'm most excited for, aside from potential Stranger Things, would be Universal Monsters Paris, because I love the Phantom of the Opera. Yes, it's the musical version, but I love the story, and I do love that original classic Universal Monsters horror version as well. Potential for sets in the Opera House are wonderful. I just cannot wait to see what they do with this facade. I'm imagining a giant organ, a chandelier. I just think they can do so much with this setting in the Opera House. Now, the original map had Phantom versus Dracula. I don't think Dracula's in this house. I think it's a Phantom house, and maybe we'll have some Hunchback in there as well, since it does take place in France. I think it would make sense to have Phantom and Hunchback, but I don't think Dracula's gonna be in this. I don't think it's his time. He's been there. This is our chance to let Phantom shine. I think this could be a very scenic, scary, but beautiful house. So that's it for the houses on this map, but we also have 2 scare zones that they've added on here, which are The Last of Us in New York and Holidays in Central Park. Now, some people are questioning whether or not Last of Us would be in New York when the house is all the way down, probably in a parade building. But 1, we don't know the locations of the houses for sure. Maybe Last of Us is up in a soundstage. 2, I thought of the general public. If you're not an expert at the event like all of us watching these videos, then maybe you wander into the event, you love Last of Us, but you never make it to the back of the park, or you don't want to wait 2 hours for the house, and you still get to see some of the house in a scare zone in New York, which everyone walks through. It could work. I don't personally love IPs as scare zones. I prefer the original takes. I don't particularly love when a scare zone has the exact same theme as a house. We've had houses that have emptied into scare zones before, like Zombiegeddon into Zombie-Gras, where it works fantastic, but those are slightly different themes. I didn't love, and I think a lot of you are on the same page as this, I didn't love is a very kind way of saying how I felt about 2013's all Walking Dead scare zones. So I don't really want that. While the first Purge zone was very effective, I just historically have not loved IP zones in New York. Kind of hoping this one's not true. I'll understand if it is. Now, Holidays with a Z seems like it's a little bit of a warped take on every single holiday, kind of like what we saw in HR Blood and Guts, one of the favorite houses for everyone back in the day. This Twisted Holidays take has been a staple at Horror Nights Hollywood for a bit. I think they've had a house, they've had a zone, so it makes sense to bring it here. However, I do not believe it makes sense in Central Park. If we're going to see Holidays at Orlando, I think it would need to be in the Hollywood section of the park, because Central Park is meant for the creepy vibes, the really scary zones, the claustrophobic zones. And this is going to be somewhat comedic, and I just don't think it works in Central Park. So I hope that's not what they're using Central Park for. I think it deserves to be in Hollywood. A lot more space. You can have a lot more characters for all the holidays. Time will tell. This might not even be a real thing. I don't know. We shall see. No real information on shows quite yet. We're still waiting to find out what's happening with the lagoon, if it's going to get fixed, if we'll have another show there, if we'll get something else entirely. We're still waiting on that one. So how do you guys feel about the drastic changes from last time? Are you liking this map better than the last map? Did you like the last one better than this? How are you feeling about the potential icon, if I'm right? Or what do you think of that teaser video if you're like, Liz, that wasn't it? You're completely off. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. But you guys know I'll be back anytime there's any big announcements or news that come from Halloween Horror Nights or a rumors map from Horror Night Nightmares. Plus, I am planning to cover the other theme parks doing Halloween events in Florida just as their announcements come. So like I said, if you aren't already, make sure to subscribe. And until next time, stay safe and stay spooky. Bye.